Wanted to share today a little bit about the book you see on the screen, of course, A Traveler's Companion to Central Asia. Book just finished up, and this was actually referred to me, I believe, through some of Patrick Le Fermore's books on travels when he did his walk back in the 1930s from Rotterdam to Istanbul or Constantinople, depending on what he decides to call it in the book. But anyways, interesting book. It was written in 1993, so what we're coming up on just over 30 years ago, but it's really interesting, and I'll explain why and why this might still be something you would want to check out. But let's talk first. The author is Kathleen Hopkirk, so I have not read anything else by her. Just did a quick look on Amazon to see if the author page showed anything else. I didn't see anything, but I will say that overall I really enjoyed the writing. I think it's done well. It's a good mix of stories, along with, factual information and dates and things from diaries and references and things like that. And the blending together made it, for me, a really easy read and really, really interesting. So kind of the big idea here, I'm just going to share a quote that I took from the book. And what she said was, what she's tried to do in the book is to set the scene for Central Asia's volatile present by drawing on the experience of some of those who were there during its equally turbulent past. She's quoted from the diaries and memoirs of travelers from the 1st century BC to the present day, but the majority date from the 19th and early 20th centuries. These are people with whom we can easily identify, and the events they witnessed or took part in are still highly relevant to the situation today. So I would say that still is definitely true, and although if you want, you may want to fill in the gaps, again, if you're really trying to learn a particular country, region, ethnic group, whatever it is, you would probably want to fill in the last 30 years and make sure you're understanding that, especially maybe if you're going to be traveling to some of these areas. So the chapter breakdown, I'm not going to go into complete. I just wanted to kind of let you know how the book is organized and how that works. So the intro is like a Central Asia overview, going into explaining the region as a whole and a very brief history of the whole region, because from there we go into cities, areas, and I'll just call it regions. So for example, the first chapter is Ashkhabad, and then we have Bokhara, and 13 others, so other large cities, and then including the Silk Road and an explanation, kind of history of that, since this is a large part of traveling through that area through history. So for me, wow, that is a pretty bad misspelling. I won't tackle anything away, but I will take something away. What I will take away, one thing, is a better understanding of some old grievances. Some of these, I think we hear about them in modern terms, and I did not understand some of the ramifications of the background that goes way back between some of these groups like Tibet and China, and what that looks like over different periods of time. As well, the heavy Russian influence and background in Central Asia, that becoming more important as we moved into the modern history. And she does talk up in the book about the Great Game, kind of between the British and Russia, and how that worked, and mapping the areas, and kind of grabbing land or influence, with, of course, the British being in India and Russia coming down over time and developing their boundaries or expanding their boundaries in Central Asia. Also, I think that the thoughts and ideas and what people wrote down is a really interesting time. Like she stated, that it's the 19th century, early 20th, and some of these areas were not very modernized by our standards, of course, but the stories that they tell, and most of it coming from British people who were posted there or traveling through, or some people who weren't supposed to be there and were traveling through, but some of this stuff is really fascinating, and we get a good look at how the society and how some of the cultures operated, and as well as a lot of the contentious issues of the time, and some of those are still relevant today. So that to me was really interesting. So who would this book be great for? I think anyone interested in this region, in Central Asia, in the countries and the groups that go into this. This is, again, a great way to kind of get up to speed quickly, without having to, read a book for each area, ethnicity, region, country, whatever that might be. But then you could go up to that and go deeper. She references a lot of books, a lot of source content, and you could definitely go deeper if you wanted to and say, okay, I've read this specific area in the book. Now I want to dive deeper. There is tons of material to do that with. So personally, I really enjoyed reading this book. This one's going to stay on the shelf as a reference. It's a lot of fun, as well as for sources if I want to read further on a couple of these, which I will be doing. And I've already ordered a book to read just from this, and we'll be getting into that and hopefully sharing some more with that later. So highly recommend checking it out if this sounded of interest. If you have any questions or comments, let me know and I'll get back to you.